If it haters me.
Hey, shalom, shalom. Let's start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachaha Korash. A double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who do teach and rule well according to the scriptures. And shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel, those who are predestined, before the foundation of the earth, to receive salvation in these latter times and be of the first fruits of the kingdom of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, being the governing body of that kingdom that will dwell for eternity. Shalom unto you. Uh, I got this video pulled up. It's from Biblical Defenders, the elder. I believe he's out there in DC. I forget his name. Forgive me, elder, if you so happen to run into this. But, it's just another one of those cautionary tales, as you can see. Uh, the group ISUPK, which these camps and these other Israelite groups, because of their love of the world and they want to be inclusive and be on the forefront, when it comes to the Israelite community, they do a lot of showboating, and what Apostle Paul spoke about, the superfluity of naughtiness, you ain't got to do all this extra shit, when it comes to uh, the ministry, everybody wants to be a rapper, a master debater. So what you get is a lot of the doctrine and the gospel that we're supposed to be teaching put on the back burner, and more or less of them showboating, showing forth their own glory. But I may not play all of this video, all of this rap video, but you definitely can watch the whole the elders video, because he makes a lot of great points when it just comes to conduct, and the ways we're supposed to be showing forth, our fruit, unto the congregation, because uh, people, when they come out of the world, they come out of all different kind of mindsets, where they're mentally in bondage, to the ways of Babylon the Great and all the things that we've been taught outside of uh, the ways of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. So, even feeding them a little bit of this nonsense, which rapping into the ministry, complete nonsense, adding a whole bunch of theatrics to the ministry is nonsense. Debating constantly is nonsense. Even Apostle, I believe it was Apostle Paul, he spoke about that. These dudes that they teach you how to shy for contention and strife. We're commanded to stay away from debates in that fashion. The way you'll have Captain Tazariak, he'll get up on a platform, and just go back and forth on the same topics that he's been constantly talked about, instead of going into things that are happening in the world. Because the world, as it speaks about in Habakkuk, these prophecies, they ain't holding back, bro. Things are speaking loud and clear. So you see men who are in the spirit of Yahushua, which is the spirit of prophecy, completely lock in, But hey, if we were of the world would love our own. People don't like when we come on the scene and, reprove and rebuke, and give this sound a warning that's from on high, But anyways,
Man, I got mind control over Tebow. When he here, I pay my tithes. But when he leave, I pay my tithes.
Man, damn, man. I should have just paid my tithes, man.
which I'm gonna say this too, and I'm not gonna keep pausing it because, like I said, I don't intend on making it long. But it's a lot that could be digested from, watching these other camps. That's another reason why we get on these other camps and we reprove them in the open, because there's edification that comes from that, Like, so even when it comes to the tithes, you can definitely tell a lot of these camps, they use the paying of the tithes, it can be a money grab, and then they hold you guilty and be like, look, you breaking the law, brother. You ain't gonna get salvation, brother. Now, don't get me wrong, you damn sure, but if you got it, pay your tithes. The scripture, Apostle Paul spoke about that. People that muzzle the ox, meaning those who put in the footwork and the labor and are constantly laboring, Hey, that's a full-time job, because now what? They gotta constantly be instant, in season, out of season, and they have to oversee uh certain men, you know. So it's a full-time job. So you definitely should pay your tithes, because that's what the tithes was initially set up for, to take care of the priests, and then so the priesthood could be taken care of, you know. But these dudes use it for a money grab. So now you'll see them in their videos like, man, make sure you pay your tithes, Which I might do a lesson, an in-depth lesson on paying on the paying of the tithes, and the reasons for it, because they look, hey, we gonna even we're gonna be tremendously rich, but we still gonna get tithes, and offerings, in the kingdom. Why? Because we're gonna be the lawgivers, So the other nations are going, like I said, I may do a lesson on it. Let's go. But with that being said, let me just make that disclaimer. Hey, we're not gonna, if a brother ain't got it, because we in Babylon, we in captivity. If a brother ain't got it, hey, do what you can when you can, when the spirit's on you, And if the brother's moving with wisdom, Babylon sucks. Don't get me wrong, but you can always send something, just to show forth your effort, you know. But we ain't jumping down nobody's back to give no money, over here at GMS, I know situations, just with them brothers where they going through a rough patch, so they might not be able to give nothing for a couple months. That just it is what it is, you know. But we're not gonna be like, hey, yeah, brother, you gotta turn in your garment, you out of there.
Walk inside the entrance, put me as the GOAT, should be honored to get a mention. All my clips is standard, but I still get extensions. From Westworld.
That's where your tithes money going. Forgive me. I'm done.
From Westworld. Let's get it. We gon' be sure, tell them make sure. We gon' make more. Clips saying hold 20, but we can take more. Grab a stick, fire on your beat, we gon' make more. I ain't satisfied with my spot, and I'ma take yours. I'm in these roadblocks, and I'ma break forward. Half I'm on it so damn narrow, I just stay forward. Put them on my plate, I'm never full. I just ate more. Put them on my plate, I'm never full. Give me 8 more. Nigga, I don't sugarcoat shit, bitch, I'm straightforward. Don't give a fuck if they don't let me. I just break doors. Ballin' so hard they ask me what I play for. Scamming who? GameStop niggas when they made yours. Feeling like I woke up with stage 4. They ain't want the peace, what they open up the cage for. Endure the pain, been through hard times, what I'm made for. Pay my dues, never wage. I just raised war. Many chains and gold teeth, it's the blood of a slave. Sit on a throne with a gold crown from the blood of a slave. This is our world. Got it from the mud to the grave. Become a thing in the past, don't be a story in my past.
All enemies, high school, you was the man, that's lost memory shit. Lost energy, never lost my energy, never lose control, never losing, dog, I play the keep, you losing where I'm from. Talking from what you see, never lost soul, losing time, wasting steady patience, I'm on that. Pray to God, hoping he is hoping, but the power about war, and that's a different.
Yeah, forgive me. I think I'm done with this. Well, no, you see it, a big old weaponry all up in the camera. They got the the elder. He said, "Damn, they got the blue beams on on the pistols now. They ain't even rocking the reds. But this is a carnal mindset that you keeping the children of Israel in when you portray, your ministry, and you mix it like this. You know what I'm saying? And we're supposed to refrain. What's the scripture say? Refraining from the appearance of evil. You know what I mean? So we ain't supposed to be given the image that, hey, yeah, you come over here, we might burn that block down. All that. You see? But that's what Jake glorified. You can be a tough guy. And I ain't saying it in the sense of a tough guy where you show, but you know what I'm saying, you got to be on Front Street, you got your chest poked out. You can be, hey, look, hey, I don't say shit like this much, but hey, I've always been in mixed martial arts. I boxed, I wrestled, I did a little jujitsu, so I could protect myself. But hey, brothers that know me, hey, they know, hey, damn, brother, goddamn, if it came down to a fight and I had to defend myself, hey, hey, all right, but it ain't gotta be all that, you know. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, it's spiritual. You see, so we ain't got to do all that shit just to be like, oh, because Jake get that mentality from the world, when they did all that shit, yeah, the dude that, what I'm saying, he took a couple, he been locked up, whoop de whoop, that's the tough dude on the block, that's the head honcho. Nah, bro, you know. Hey, we're requiring the things of old, the wisdom, as the scriptures say, the wisdom was more precious than rubies, Our forefathers, they went, well, our righteous forefathers, especially the prophets, especially the prophets, you know, they ran out there, then you got instances where, the prophets got a little rough, but they weren't out there for a fight, they were out there to be messengers, you know, uh, uh, from Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah, you know. So what's your message? Where's your message coming from? It looked like it's coming from, as y'all would say, a nigger god. Y'all say what? We serve a nigger god. What is going on? And it's showing that the oil is constantly leaking out of y'all. Captain Tazariak, he's never been rooted and grounded, because as we know, he learned a lot of things from GMS. He would be in the comment boards taking notes, the whole nine. From what the Elder Yashawamba says. And then I can see it. But they said he got all twisted up uh, about how we got down on women. Hey, we know we not sugarcoating nothing. Hey, as the scriptures say, um, uh, uh, damn, was that Isaiah 1? Uh, Cry aloud, spare not. You know, we ain't sparing no feelings over here, man. We get straight to the nitty gritty. Tell you what it is, because what? Jake need correction, bro. Jake need to be spiritually slapped out of that stupor that they're in, and whether that comes from gang banging, being a whore, being a sluggard, a drunkard. Jake need to be spiritually slapped out of those stupors, you know. So let's just get this, and we're gonna end it, because what Apostle Peter, he spoke about that, you know. In this First Peter 1:1, it says, Simon Peter, a servant and an apostle of Yahweh Shah Mashiach. It says, to them that were that obtain like precious faith. Hold on. Nah, this ain't it. This ain't it. Here we go. Yep, this is it. I guess I swiped over. This forgive me. First Peter's 5:1. It says, the elders which are among you exhort. Yeah, the elders which are among us exhort, especially those who continue on in the doctrine, as it speaks about, they worthy of double honors, But over time, you've seen even General Yohana, he's switched up the gospel, Now John the Baptist has fell out the truth. Moses fell out the truth, you know. Hey, the mark of the beast is sleeping with white women. You get it. You see? It says, and a witness of the sufferings of a Mashiach. What them dudes was doing on camera, that wasn't an example of suffering, a witness of suffering, That was a witness of look at me, look at what I did, And people who fall for, they got the lust of the eyes. They'll be like, oh yeah, ISUPK, they some cool ass Israelites, man. I'm gonna follow them. I'm gonna follow their doctrine, because that's all it takes with Jake. Jake ain't like the Church of Berea. You know, that a search the scriptures to see if the things were true that they were taught. Hey, these dudes, people, a majority of Israelites. You know, they like the entertainment. They like the flashiness. You know, they got them itching ears. You know, they like the smooth things. It says, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. It says, feed the flock of the Most High, which is among you. Yeah, and how do you feed the flock? You know, and you give them the proper warning, and you know, you reprove, you rebuke, and you exhort with all long suffering. You know, and you tell them what's to come. You know, you let them know what's happening in the world. You know, we're a watchman on a wall. You know, a being a defense to the elect of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. This is how we feed the Lord's flock. It says, taking the oversight, thereof, it says, not by constraints. And let's get that word for constraints real quick. We're just going to do a little Google AI overview. It says, constraints. It says, constraints is a limitation, restriction, or boundary that confines, controls, and dictates what you can do. Yeah. So when you get out on the camera, you know, and you flashing the guns and things of that nature, and you putting a constraint on these individuals, because what? Hey, we're behind enemy lines, so a pushing that imagery, it's only going to make it worse when they start to demonize the elect. You know, you giving them all the ammo to offer us up. You know, to the governors, and you know, and to throw salt on our names. You see. And it's a lot of groups out there that do this, but they still got that worldly mindset. You know, they still want to fit in with the world. They still want to mix in with the world. You know, they still got that. They still childish as hell. You know, and the scriptures say, man, hey, when I was a child, I thought as a child. When I became a man, I've put off the childish things. Roughly paraphrasing. You know, so you gotta put off the old mindset what you had, and that's what comes with being washed and renewed by this word. You know, it completely brainwashes you. We're brainwashed, brothers. We're brainwashed. Aquaf. You know, it says but willingly. It says not for fil-, and then, look, you gotta love to do this thing the right way. You know, and see the way we do it. You know, because you know. As Apostle Ramlab, sometimes he'll, before he starts his lesson, you know, if it ain't a juicy, you know, somebody's getting on somebody, you know, so on and so forth, which there was a situation that just came about, and that situation got a lot of views because motherfuckers like to hear that entertainment. You know, I won't speak on what the situation was, but you know, hey, if people loved that, because I looked at the numbers. I looked at all the parties that was involved, you know, and people, and you know, I'm sure there was a lot of people from other camps like, ooh, GMS, you know what I mean? So people love the entertainment, but like Apostle Ramla said, hey, this, like he always say, this ain't gonna be one of them ones. This is a notepad and precept, you know, an edification kind of lesson, and them lessons don't get no hits, you know. But me, and I ain't saying the spirit's always on me while I want to hop on those, because brothers be on the go. You know, you might have your own lessons and things you want to get into. But me, I love them kind of titles. You know, I love when the spirit get to flowing, in the spirit hop on brothers, and you know, they going through just a basic level things, but they matching it up with script. Hey, man, that's beautiful to me. That's a gift from on high. So it's nice to see these precepts and secular history and all these things get put into perspective, you know, because it comes alive at you. You know, that's the issue with Jake. You know, as the scriptures say, where there is no vision, the people perish. You know, these you got to see these scriptures, bro. You gotta see these things when it's you know, when it's being brought out. But hey, blessed are your eyes for they see, and your ears for they hear. Continuing on, it says uh neither being lords over the Most High's heritage, and that's another thing too, and that's heavy. Call all y'all about Shemi al Shah, because what was they saying? And I'm sure IUIC they carry the same sentiment. You know, you ain't paying your monthly whatever the fuck. you know. Hey, nah, you can't be around us. So now people are scared, like, oh my God, I can't properly serve the Lord if I don't pay my tithes to Bishop Nathaniel or General Yohana, you know. So yeah, that's being lords over the Most High's heritage, bro. You know, and you're supposed to show mercy in those instances, or even get that brother back on track. Hey, look, brother. Hey, look, what kind of moves do we need to do so you can make sure X, Y, and Z is taken care of? You know, mainly your day to day, and then so you can get back on track of serving the Lord properly. You know, that's the mindset you should be having. But no, it's like, damn, bro, you got to hustle. It's like, all right, well, cool. Let's do this. You come work one of the whatever the fuck brothers got going on. You know, you won't get paid for it, but that's gonna be, you know what I'm saying? That's the mindset of Jake when it comes to lording over Israel. You know, but it says, verse 3 one more time. It says, neither as being lords over the Most High's heritage, but being examples unto the flock. So yeah, you're supposed to be in a good example unto the flock. You know, and how do you do that? You know, you first and foremost, you teach them the names. You know, you teach them who they are, and you teach them prophecy. But you also not just reading the word unto them. You know, you're showing forth your faith within all of these words, meaning you're gonna move the way the scriptures tell us to move. You know, and the way it's unfolding. And look, the apostle's been saying this since I came in. You're gonna see a lot of if Yahweh Bashim Yahushua don't take these camps out overnight, you're gonna see a lot of telltale signs the closer and closer we get to the Messiah coming, that these wicked false prophets of old, you know. And you've seen that with the Sakari, you know, which is spiritual too, that the Lord, you know, took the Sakari out in the fashion that he did, you know, and because they were moving carnal, you know, and the Sakari, you know, they were taken out in a carnal sense. You know, the Lord take them out spiritually, you know, but if they don't get their act together, you know, and start to come and teach the 100% truth, they're gonna be taken out physically by the Heavenly Father too. But you know, it's just another cautionary tale, you know, a marking those, you know, that cause division, you know, to the gospel. Hey, shalom.